833-758-1065 is the number to call if you'd like to jump on Front Page Jacksonville. So the month of October, there are several awareness months throughout the month of October, one of which you just heard us speak about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but there's also National Estate Planning Month. And so our next guest is with us today by phone, coming to us from Atlanta. Attorney Amber Saunders is going to help us get our estate planning game up. Good morning, Attorney Saunders. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Doing excellent, thank you. Well, I know it's an early morning, but see, Serena, she's on the West Coast, so it's like 3 o'clock her time. But you in ATL, you right up the street, so it's almost 7 o'clock your way. So hopefully you've had a chance to get a little coffee in your system before jumping on Front Page Jacksonville.
Absolutely. I can't do anything without coffee first.
Well, let's get right on into it, Attorney Saunders. National Estate Planning Month is going on right now in the month of October. And so what exactly is estate planning?
Estate planning is essentially telling your loved ones, or everyone really, what you want done with your assets, with your legacy, with your memories, whatever you have after you're gone away. That's it.
And so with that dynamic, let's talk about how estate planning is essential within the African American community. And so before we get into that, let's just kind of talk about some things that we know happens within the African American community. Where life insurance, we may or may not have some, and a will, we may or may not have one. So in the instance as it relates to a will, how strong is a will, especially when you speak about probate court?
So when you have a will, it has to go through probate court. Now, depending on where you live, what state, there are some rules that make it a little easier. Some rules might make it a little more difficult. But at the bare minimum, a will is necessary so that they know exactly who you want to inherit, whatever you outline. Anything that's in your name, your bank account, anything that you have that is titled to you will go through probate court unless there's a beneficiary attached to it. So like you mentioned, life insurance, they have beneficiaries. Those things can pass outside of probate court. On your bank account, if you have a beneficiary listed or a payable on death, it can pass outside of probate court. But like your home, unless you have someone else that you, during your lifetime, had them listed on the title to your home, which we don't necessarily want you to do,
sure.
Then it will go through probate court. So you have to have some sort of will to say who that goes to, what percentages you want them to have, things like that.
And so now when estate planning comes into the mix, what are some of the different things that makes up an estate?
Okay, so you need there are essential documents that should be there. So there can be a will. If you want things to pass outside of probate court so that, a judge who doesn't know you or your family doesn't have any say-so or any input, you can get a trust, which will separate those things and it won't have to go through probate court. So a will or a trust, a healthcare directive, which if you are incapacitated in any way and need to let people know what to do with your body, that you don't want to be resuscitated, that you don't want to be on life support, things like that, you need a directive or a living will. You need a power of attorney. You can get in a car accident, driving down the highway, and you're in a coma. Someone needs to be able to pay bills, take care of your financial affairs. So you need a durable power of attorney for them to be able to do that. And then if you have minor children, you need guardianship documents because a court's going to have to decide who gets guardianship over your children if something happens to you, if you don't try and outline that before you go.
Now, Attorney
so those
Saunders,
are the basic ones.
Now I like to keep it a buck. I got to keep it a buck with you. Right. How easy is it to establish a trust? And here's why I ask this question. I've been looking to establish a trust for my family for the past year. But I come across people on social media like, yeah, I could hook up that trust for you, this, that, and the third. I'm like, no, I don't trust you, Joker. I wouldn't trust you to make a honey dripper, let alone establish a trust. So I know that there is an irrevocable trust, there's a revocable trust, but there are so many different dynamics that goes into forming a trust. What do we need to know? What do I need to know about selecting someone to form a trust for my family?
I would definitely make sure that they have a law degree, because then you have some sort of repercussions, right?
Right.
I had
indeed.
someone come in. I had someone come in my office who paid $6,000 to someone who she met on Instagram for a trust. And when I looked at it, it was in a, when you graduate from high school and you get that diploma, it was in one of those little diploma things.
Oh no, not was it ICDC? Was that what Little Romeo was? That ICDC school? Oh no.
Yeah, that's what it looked like, right? And I mean, people aren't, they're trying to. I can't knock you for trying to educate people about certain things, but you can't really get a binding trust. That's the unauthorized practice of law. So get a lawyer to do it first. But number two, most people do not need an irrevocable trust. So an irrevocable trust is going to be taxed at the highest tax rate, which is around 40%. So if you put all your assets in that trust, then they're going to be, if you try and sell it, you're going to get taxed at a higher rate, and you lose a level of control over your assets because you can't be the trustee over an irrevocable trust. Most people don't need that.
Right.
You just get a revocable living trust. You're still the trustee at the time that you pass away. Then there's a successor trustee who takes over, and it's irrevocable on everyone after that. So they can't come back and change it. They can't come back and say, oh, this is what my dad really wanted, something like that. So you don't want it irrevocable during your lifetime in most circumstances for the general public. But the trust allows you to be able to tell people what to do with what you had. So if you have it just pass through probate court through a will, when your minor child turns 18, the court's going to give them everything you left to them. So then your 18-year-old might be trying to go buy a Lamborghini with that, whatever you left.
Right.
As opposed to you put it in a trust, you can say this money can go towards school, and it has to go towards school because it doesn't belong to them. They are only the beneficiaries of it. So you can parent from beyond. You can say, this is how I want you to do this, and kind of dictate. You might not want to have heavy guardrails around it to give them some freedom to use it, but you can say how and when they will have access to it and incentivize the kind of behavior you want. You can't do that through a will because they're just going to give it away because the courts don't want to manage it after you're gone for that long.
You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis. My guest on the phone right now is Attorney Amber Saunders, educating us on the importance of establishing an estate. October is National Estate Planning Month. Now, Attorney Saunders, within the African-American community, someone may be hearing this right now and say, okay, that sounds all copacetic. We're talking about having a trust and having money for kids, but financially, I don't have it like that to set up no trust, so I don't know if this is for me. So when you speak about families where there may be some concerns as it relates to finances, what would you say to that family who may feel that a trust is out of reach or not necessary for their family dynamic?
It might not be, and only they can really say. There isn't a certain asset level that's necessary to set up a trust. It's really about what you want to happen after you're gone. If you feel like your children are going to act a fool, you might want to put something together. Right? If you feel like, and people come into the office and say, oh, I think my kids will be fine, but I've seen siblings not talk to each other anymore because their parents did not set up something and they thought that one child was treated better or got more and they fought in court. So at the bare minimum, you need to have a will because it will say exactly what you wanted, and that they have to do it. There's no way around it. So at bare minimum, they need to get a will. But I want them to think in the context of what Black people have gone through in the United States. At the time of emancipation, Black people had roughly a few years after that, 16 to 19 million acres of land in the United States compared to the 3 million that we have now.
Wow.
Now, there are a ton of reasons why and things that went into why we lost that land, but a significant amount of that is because of heirs property. Because my grandmother had 17 siblings. So then if land was left to them and it went to the 17, then it went to their children and it wasn't passed down in a way that that it made sense for them to participate, then that 127, they're not going to go back to probate court and try and save the land that they might not make that much money on or pay the taxes on it or do any of those things. And so then that land can get taken in a tax sale, property sale through like all of those things. So we can we can make sure we can do something a little bit better so that the next generation has a little bit of a step forward, as opposed to us continuing to lose the assets that we have because we just think it will take care of itself. It won't if we don't say what we want to be done with it.
I read that my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, but my people do not have to be destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We got Attorney Amber Saunders available to help us navigate these waters when we speak about wanting to set up our family for generational wealth. Attorney Saunders, how can our listeners get in contact with you if they'd like for you to hook them up and avoid the Instagram scammers?
They can reach me on Instagram at Ask Amber Saunders. Our website is www.thesaundersfirm.com or 678-680-4336.
Now, Attorney Saunders, I said we want to avoid the Instagram scammers, and you send them to Instagram. Come on now. I'm teasing with you.
If they already on there looking, I just want to make sure I'm there too.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's Attorney Amber Saunders. Be sure to check her out. I will definitely be following up with you because, as I stated, my wife and I, we've been looking to establish a trust, but I haven't trusted nobody that I've come across so far. But the information that you share has been very helpful, and definitely looking forward to having a conversation with you as it relates to our family dynamic. Any final words before we close out today, Attorney Saunders?
That your estate plan is the last love letter you get to write to your family. So I want you to make sure it's a good one. That's it.
Oh, good words to leave us on. Thank you so much, Attorney Saunders. Thanks for hanging out with us on Front Page Jacksonville.
Broadcasting from the Anna Jar Levine Studios. Anna Jar Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
WHJX, Ponte Vedra Beach, Hot 106.5. Always connecting the community to events, concerts, and more. Download our free Hot 106.5 app to your phone and stay updated. We are Hot 106.5, Duval's only R&B.